what's going on? Brother John here. Welcome to ModernDeism. I know I have the sun behind me, but I was hoping to catch the creek in the shot, so I hope, it's very bright out, so I hope you can see me. But what's more important, I hope, is what I have to say, what I have to talk about today, and that is the story of Jesus and the money changers. Now, it's one of the few stories that are in all four Gospels, and I believe it's only in one of them. I think it's in John. Sorry, I didn't read them all, but there was one of them talks about Jesus going in there, with the whip. Chasing the money changers out of there. I think of it today like somebody, shooting up guns. Get out of here! Clearing out the place. Hey, and I would say rightfully so, because what was going on there in the temple there, you had on the Passover time, and by the number of feasts, people would come from all over by the thousands. The journey is too long for them to bring their own animals to sacrifice, because they would come into the temple to make the sacrifices to God. The burning, got to burn those animals, right? You can never figure that out. Like, oh, why is an almighty supreme being need a burning animal? Spilling of its blood. But anyway, so they would come to the temple, bring money, like we use currency now, right, to exchange for the animals, just like we do today. Right? Most of us are not, trading 10 chickens for a cow or whatever. At least we're not there yet. But the way the economy's going, we might get back to old times. But that's another story. But anyway, the money changers, or I like to say, let's use today's term, exchangers. Money exchangers would rip people off. Yeah. See, one of the major rules that definitely God-made law in I think you find in Leviticus was, about weights and measures. Not to mess with weights and measures. Besides the fact that one shouldn't be overburdened with high interest. Some sects of Judaism, kudos to the Muslim world, they have laws against any usury. In God's economy, debts were 7 years. Debts were cleaned out, clear, free and clear, you go on your way. Not like today, right? So, John, you're almost making an argument for the Old Testament God and His ways. Hey, some of it makes sense, I'll tell you. Some of it. But anyway, I digress. So, they're ripping people off in the temples. Especially the the poor people. Because in one of the stories it talks about them selling doves, which was a simpler sacrifice. For those who were poor, who could not afford a lamb, whatever, a ram, they would get doves. And that was, apparently acceptable as a sacrifice. But the money changers were ripping people off, taking advantage of the supply and demand. There you go. They were very good capitalists in the temple. But Jesus came in there and says, hey, this This is supposed to be a house of prayer. This is my Father's house. You're abusing it. You're using it to take, to feed your greed. Get out of here. What are you doing? You're making something apparently holy, making it unholy. You're making a mockery. But we can see it that way. But the issue was, you take advantage of the poor. You're taking advantage of people. You're taking advantage. Whoa, there goes my notes. They're taking advantage of their fears. That's what it comes down to, right? Because these people needed sacrifices. They had to appease God. Think about the silliness now, though. But they had to appease God. These people and these money exchanges, they knew they had to appease God. They knew there was a demand there. They knew these people were going to want to do the right thing, or else what? These people be cast out of their communities. Right? If they were, God forbid, seen not doing what was considered in those days the norm for their nationality, for the Jews. I mean, the Romans, they couldn't care less. As long as you paid your taxes to Caesar, they didn't care. So, man, I think that would upset Jesus. That should upset you. But apparently most Christians, they're not upset. And you think these money exchanges, they just showed up at the temple without the permission of the high priest and the priest? They had to be just as corrupt to even allow it going on. And so now we have, even in these days, the house of God. Okay? How many supposedly Christian folks, religious folks, they're still calling it the house of God, even though the scriptures say that temples are not built by the hands of man, right? That's not where God presides, in things made by man. But yet, if I went into a church with my hat on, they'll tell me, take that hat off because you're in the house of God. And it's using that fear. Right? They'll use fear to give, fear to give you, pay allegiance to the religion. So today, most of us, there's the obvious pulpit pimps out there. To most of us, it's obvious. But yet to thousands upon thousands, it's not. When Jesus talks about, laying not your treasures on earth, but in heaven, or what does it profit a man to gain the whole world yet lose their soul? And I remember he was trying to settle this, guy was asking, Jesus, settle this dispute between me and my brother about our inheritance. He's like, I have nothing to do with this. You're worried about your possessions. It's not about that. I'm not here to be your judge. You work it out, right? Doesn't a lot of family arguments, what's it all about most of the time? It's money. Someone dies in the family, right? Oh God, how many stories have you heard, battles you've heard of brother against brother, or sister against sister, brother against sister. Someone dies, and they're arguing in court over their possessions, right? Splitting them apart because of money and greed.